Welcome back to Matt's Investing Corner. AMG Critical Materials last evening published their Q3 earnings, and I don't think they disappoint. They're actually pretty good. So let's dive right in and show you the insights. So when we look at the press release that was released last evening, we can see that the following. Well, AMG achieved a revenue of 435 million, which is an increase of 22% compared to the last year quarter 2024, which was 356. So that's quite a bump up if you compare it year over year. If you compare it actually the quarter over quarter, it's slightly down. If we look at the AMG achieved adjusted EBITDA, they achieved 64 million, which is a 58% increase compared to the third quarter of 24, and that was around 40 million last year. So if you look at the message that was sent by the CEO, Dr. Heinz Schimmelbuch, we can see that they are saying that they had remained a strong quarter with continued momentum, and they benefited from a 5 million compensation settlement at the AMG Vanadium for equipment failure. And what they are also saying is that the market remains difficult, and that basically the prices, they're highly dependent on the prices of lithium and vanadium. So the current low prices environment in our two main products, lithium and vanadium, continues to constrain profitability and cash generation. However, we remain actively engaged in developing new business opportunities driven by accelerating the trend towards onward critical materials production. So, and that's what they have been doing. They have been investing in the last 4 or 5 years tremendously, and I believe this company is setting themselves up that when these prices go up and they recover, which they are already doing a bit lately in the last 2-3 months, and that's something that gives me hope that this will drive further the price up, because the numbers that they will start reporting in the following quarters will be even better with the new setup that they will have. They're currently processing high purity chrome metal in Newcastle, PA plant, and starting in the second quarter of 26, we will expand further the production. We will continue to establish critical material processing facilities in the US and are targeting niobium metal and antimony oxide. We will expand our US titanium alloys capacity to keep up with our customers' increasing demand for aerospace applications. And it bears noting that in addition to these expansions, our Ohio spent catalyst recycling facility is the only ferro-vanadium producer in the US. So again, they are positioning themselves up in rare earth, critical earth materials processing. That's something they do with lithium in Germany, but also in Ohio in the US for very rare or critical materials. So next, let's have a look at the investor presentation that they shared with us. The quarterly financial highlights. What we can see is that they shown a revenue in the range of 434.7, which is year over year a percentage of 22% up, but slightly down, I would say, from quarter over quarter. Nonetheless, it's still pretty good, I would say. If we look at the adjusted EBITDA, we can see year over year, again, a nice, very big jump up from 40 to 63. However, if you look quarter over quarter, it's slightly lower, or slightly lower. It's 7 million lower. And if we look at the net loss income attributable, we can see that in Q3 24, they had a loss of 13.4, whereas now they have a profit of 13.1, which is a difference of 27 million, which is a big plus, I would say. So all in all, what they're saying that they increased 22% compared to the revenue. On the EBITDA, there was an increase of 58%, largely due to continued strong performance by the AMG Technologies segment. So that is something that was also in previous quarter the main driver for revenue and for profitability. The net income attributable to shareholders was 13 million, as I already said. This is strong recovery in profitability and was driven by a strong performance of the technology segment. AMG Critical Materials is split up in 3 different segments, and in this slide you can nicely see that's split up in lithium, vanadium and technologies. And here you can see basically highlights of their segment results. If you look at lithium, we can see that in this quarter they did a revenue of 32.7. If you compare that to last year, it was 48.6, so that's a drop of 15-16 million. How is that mainly due? Well, mainly due to the price. The price was down. The adjusted gross profit dropped significantly as well from 12.9 to 3.9. If we look at vanadium, we see that the revenue grew with 3 million to 154 million. The adjusted gross profit grew approximately with 9 to 10 million to 25.5 million. So what do we see? Well, the price is slightly up here on vanadium and chrome, and titanium alloys remains the same. The volume of vanadium has been reduced, whereas the volume of chrome has been going up basically. If we look at technologies, we can see that technologies is really the driver of revenue and profit for this company currently. So if we look at that, we see Q3 brought 248 million. That's almost 90 to 100 million more than the quarter last year, the third quarter. So that's a huge plus. And if we look at the adjusted gross profit, it was 58.6. If you see that compared to last year, there's a plus difference of around 24 million in gross profit that this technology sector brings. Where can this come from? Well, antimony is going up. This remains the same. Silicon and graphite remains the same. You can see that the volumes have dropped on silicon and antimony, and the engineering book to bill also dropped. So that's something that basically explains what were the main drivers in terms of price and in terms of volume. Cash flow and working capital, we can see that the cash from operating activities went from minus 1.8 to 6.9 minus. So that's a further decline of 5 million year over year. The net debt, we can see that the debt increased from 490 year over year to 543. So that's a 54 million year over year increase. If we look at the annualized ROCE, we can see 7.4%, and which is now 14.4, due largely to higher profitability versus Q3 24. Working capital days went up from 18 to 26, so that's a 8 days year over year increase. So if we look at the outlook, what they're saying is on their capital expenditures is that they are targeting 75 to 100 million of capital expenditures in 2025. AMG is at the end of a period of significant capital intensity that positions us for strong profitability at market prices as market prices improve. So they have been investing in production, refining capacity, and that's something that I believe will pay out in the next following quarters when everything starts to ramp up fully up to in production. If we look at the adjusted EBITDA, we expect an EBITDA to exceed 220 million in 2025. And regarding AMG 5-year guidance, at normalized market prices, we guide an EBITDA of 500 million or more in 5 years or earlier. So that would mean a doubling at least of 2 to 3 times, at least 2 times of what they're actually doing now in this year. And that's something that, that's quite possible with all the investments that they have done. And if the commodity price of lithium, vanadium all recover to earlier highs is a very likely number that you can foresee. This is an interesting slide that I would like to show you as well that they included. So this is the global EV sales above 2 million cars in September. And what this basically shows is that this is, of course, one of the main drivers for demand for what the AMG Critical Materials is producing. And if you see that the demand keeps on growing further, there was, of course, from January, February, a huge dip after last year. But then you can see that it continues to grow further, and it seems to be like a yearly trend that the year end will be the highest, because they want to make sure that the car sales are the best, and this is where you can see year to date September year over year is a 26% increase, and you can see the September was very strong. So this is also, I believe, driving further the lithium prices. If we look at the battery market development from 2022 to 2025, especially for China, we can see that 2025, which is the yellow color, is very strong compared to previous years. The battery production in China per quarter has been tremendously stronger versus the previous years. And you can see that there is a difference of around 39% versus the previous 24-23 numbers. And I would expect something similar also for the fourth quarter, something in the range that follows this trends actually. So this is just another sign that the battery market for EVs, electric vehicles, but also battery production is just ramping up. And that means that the demand continues to grow, and companies like AMG Critical Materials will benefit from that when they are well positioned. So overall, do these results blow me away? Not really. They're strong, they're good. If we look year over year, they show a very strong growth. 21% in revenue, close to 80% in EBITDA. Year over year, that's pretty good. If you look at that quarter over quarter, on the revenue, we're down 1%. On the EBITDA, we're down 10%. We can see that the technologies is further pulling the wagon forward. Lithium and vanadium are lagging a bit behind. You can see that maybe here, and this is the revenue, but this is the revenue basically split by the three departments. And you can see that actually the lithium revenue is declining, whereas the vanadium has been declining as well. But if you look at the AMG technologies, that one is just growing actually over time. So by now 248, 241, 220, 202. So that one is really growing. I'm expecting that when vanadium and lithium prices are picking up, you will see this entire column of revenue further grow tremendously. It will have a huge impact on their financial results. So are they? I believe they are on the right track. What they're waiting for is, and they are strategically positioning themselves now for a very good setup for the next coming years by all the investments that they have done. But let's have a look into what the price is actually doing on the stock market. How does this report is being received? So when AMG Critical Materials opened today, it was opening around 27.90. So that's 18.90 cents higher than the close of yesterday, where currently it's moving at a level of 27.12, whereas that's exactly the same as what it closed yesterday. So is it initially it opened quite higher, so 18.90 cents higher, and now it's dropping back to basically the same levels. So is this pushing these results, the share price up to crazy direction? No, that's not happening. So AMG Critical Materials target price. In my previous video, I was saying that the target price would be in the range of 38-40 euros by the end of December. Whereas currently, I believe that's no longer realistic anymore. I need to revise that. Why is that? Because the support level I had to change. Initially, it was moving in this direction. And since we broke through the support level and we're now below the 50-day moving average, I believe that there's still an upward trend, but with a less steep direction. I believe it's possible, especially with November, December quite often being quite positive months at the end of the year, whereby the stocks in general move upwards. I believe that it's possible that we're bouncing off this support level now, this new support level, and that we will be by the end of December at levels between 35, 36, 37. So my target price would be in the range of 35, 37. And that would mean that basically that it would not in one straight line, would be ideal, but that's never the case. But obviously it will hit by the end of December in this direction. And that's something where my expectations are. Between 35 and 37, given that demand continues to go well, that the prices of critical materials remain healthy. And that's something that I think is quite likely. So I'm very curious what you think of my analysis, of what you think of the quarterly third quarter results of AMG Critical Materials. Share them with me in the comments. I'm very keen and to see your thoughts. And I hope you enjoyed the content and I hope to see you in the next one. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.